This study provides the overviews of organizational structure and design. The contents of this presentation are purely based on the management book of Heath, Black, and Porter. Attached is a sample of organizational structure showing the hierarchy and its functions.
Go.
Do you know what the one thing employee pays attention to? It's their paycheck, job description, work environment. Well, those are important. The one thing employee pays most attention to is the organizational structure. The structure tells an employee what team they on and whom they report to. Hi, once again, this is Mark Guillermo, an MBA aspirant from New Era University, Vantage Education Management Online University. After studying this lesson, we should be able to explain the concepts of organizational structure and design, explain the concept of differentiation and integration in their role in organizational structure and design, describe mechanism used to achieve differentiation and integration and balance these two structural dimensions, identify the various structures used by organizations and describe their strengths and weaknesses. List the environmental factors that influence organizational structure and determine the appropriate organizational structure for a firm given a set of internal and external factors.
As discussed in my video presentation statement, the slides shown are the learning objectives of this presentation.
Go.
One of the most powerful tools that leader has to drive to is the organizational design. Every organization has to have a structure, large or small, private sector or public sector, local, national, or multinational. There's always a need for people in a business who's in charge, what the role is, and whom to tend if there are problems. All of this is achieved through structure or hierarchy. It is important to realize that different firms will be structured in different ways, depending on the size, culture, activities, and histories. Two important factors in organizational development are organizational structure and design. These two components help define the corporate culture, expectations, and management styles. When the structure and design of organizational work together, they create a productive and efficient working environment where employees are motivated and customers satisfied. People and tasks don't get lost in the company as the structure and design ensure that everyone is taken care of and tasks are completed on the time with accuracy. Let us define organizational structure and organizational design. Organizational structure defined as the formal system of tasks and reporting relationships that controls, coordinates, and motivates employees so that they cooperate to achieve an organization goals. The focus of developing organizational structure is on the actual process and systems in place to create an efficient working environment. Organizational design defines organizational design as the process by which managers select and manage various dimensions and components of organizational structure and culture so that an organization can achieve its goals. The focus of organizational design is on the management style or approach used by leadership to implement and support the organizational structure.
In designing organizational structure, we have to follow some certain principles. The first principle is the organizational structure. It is the sum of ways an organization divides its labor into distinct coordinated tasks. The second principle is the organizational design, assessing the organization's strategy and environmental demands. determining the appropriate organizational structure. Lastly is the organizational charts, illustration of relationships showing units, lines of authority among supervisors and subordinates.
Types of organizational structure. Organizational structure can be divided into two categories: flat and high structures. Flat or horizontal organizational structures minimize the amount of levels in the organizational hierarchy. Flat organizations allow for feedback, free thinking, and the involvement of team members in decision-making processes. High or horizontal structures have many levels in the hierarchy and do not promote employee feedback or involvement. Leadership expects subordinates to follow directives without question. Types of organizational design. Organizational design can use one of the three or a combination of different styles: authoritative, democratic, or delegative. Authoritative organizational design place all authority and responsibility in the hands of the leadership. Democratic design uses members on every level to accomplish goals and tasks. In this way, lower management is given free rein to govern its teams or department as it sees fit. Delegative design creates smaller teams that are self-governed and do not have to report to leadership.
Sample of organizational structure is shown in this slide. For instance, my previous company, AMC Contracting, the organization chart of the management is simple and self-explanatory. There is only one general manager, and reporting to him are the project managers, procurement managers, quality managers, and account manager. The structure will depend on the size of the company, as stated in my previous video introduction. Differentiation refers to how a business separates itself into key components. This is very common among larger companies. The larger a company grows, the more differentiated it tends to become. Businesses with large amount of differentiation give these separate components a great deal of autonomy. Business culture may differ significantly between the IT department and the marketing department, for example. A business must decide if it wants to differentiate based on the task or product offerings. Some companies may prefer to divide sectors that produce only one product each and have functioning marketing and accounting centers for each of those products. It's also division of tasks into subtasks that are performed by individuals with specialized skills. The task differentiation and the cognitive differentiation. Integration refers to how organizations work together between their different components. A business with a high amount of integration can have different divisions, but the divisions are closely connected and do not tend to be as easily independent. From the perspective of strategy, a business creates its plans and budgets with all departments in mind and has communication methods in place to transmit the same instructions to each component. Interdepartmental coalitions and projects are very common in highly integrated businesses. Another definition for the integration, it is the facilitation of cooperation and interaction of various parts of the organization. Integration is also interdependence. Interdependence is structured of pooled, sequential, and reciprocal. Formalization is the extent to which rules and procedures are followed in an organization. This element varies greatly across organizations. Moreover, the official and defined structures and systems in decision-making, communication, and control in an organization, wherein line of authority, unity of command, span of control. Let us now discuss the factors that influence the span of control. First thing is the job complexity. Jobs that are complicated require more managerial input and involvement, and thus the span of control tends to be narrower. Job similarity. If one manages a group of employees performing similar jobs, the span of control can be considerably wider than if the jobs of subordinates are substantially different. We have the geographic proximity of supervised employees. Because employees who work in one location are more easily supervised than employees in dispersed location. Physical proximity to employees tends to allow a wider span of control. Amount of coordination. A narrower span of control is advisable in firms where management expends much time coordinating tasks performed by subordinates. Abilities of employees. Supervisors who manage employees who are among knowledgeable and capable can have a wider span of control than supervisors managing less knowledgeable and capable employees. The greater the abilities of employees, the less managerial inputs are required, and thus a wider span of control is possible. Degree of employee empowerment. Because employees who are trusted and empowered to make decisions need less supervision than employees with less autonomy and decision-making discretion. Supervisors who empower their employees can have a wider span of control. Ability of management. More capable managers can manage more employees than less competent managers. The abilities of managers to educate employees are effectively respond to their questions lessen the need of a narrow span of control. Lastly, for the span of control is technology. Communication technology such as mobile phones, fax, email, work-share software can allow managers to effectively supervise employees who are not geographically proximate, have complex and different jobs, and require significant coordination. In this slide, we will discuss about the tall organizational structure. A tall organization is a pyramid-type organization that has relatively large number of levels in its hierarchy of authority. Tall organization is opposite of flat organization. A tall organization structure has many levels of management, which is different from a flat organization. Because there are so many different levels of management, communication problems tend to occur. This also slows down the decision making. Because of some of cons of tall organization, a lot of companies are converting to flat organizations for faster responses, and it's better suited for rapid growth and change in business environment. As you can see on the chart in this slide, the levels are 4, span of control is equals to 3, where the total employees are overall 40. Flat organization, also known as horizontal organization, refers to an organizational structure with few or no levels of intervening management between staff and managers. The idea is that well-trained workers will be more productive when they are more directly involved in the decision-making process rather than closely supervised by many layers of management. This structure is generally possible only in smaller organizations or individual units with larger organizations. A flat organization, unlike a tall organization, it does not have the middle management levels and their functions have been eliminated. This allows the top management to be in direct contact with their frontline salespeople. This organization allows a faster response time when conditions arrive. This is also always changing to happen at a faster pace. The informal organization is the interlocking social structure that governs how people work together in practice. It is the aggregate of behaviors, interactions, norms, personal and professional connections through which work gets done, and relationships are built among people who share a common organizational affiliation or cluster of affiliations. It consists of a dynamic set of personal relationships, social networks, communities of common interests, and emotional sources of motivation. The informal organization evolves organically and spontaneously in response to changes in the work environment. The flux of people through its porous boundaries and complex social dynamic of its members. Informal organization has an official but influential means of communication, decision making, and control. In this slide, we will discuss centralization and decentralization. Centralization is said to be a process where the concentration of decision making is in few hands. All the important decisions and actions at the lower level, all subjects and actions at the lower level are subject to the approval of the top management. According to Allen, centralization is the systematic and consistent reservation of authority at central points in the organization. The implication of centralization can be reservation of decision making power at top level, reservation of operating authority with the middle level managers, reservation of operation at lower level at the direction of the top level. On the other hand, decentralization is a systematic delegation of authority at all levels of management and in all of the organization. In a decentralization concern, authority is retained by the top management for taking major decisions and framing policies concerning the whole concern. Rest of the authority may be delegated to the middle level and lower level of management. The degree of centralization and decentralization will depend upon the amount of authority delegated to the lowest level. Decentralization refers to the systematic efforts to delegate to the lowest level of authority, except that which can be controlled and exercised at central points. In summary, central organizations restrict decision making to fewer individuals, usually at the top of the management or the top of the organization. And decentralized organizations tend to push decision making authority down to the lowest level possible. The most common structure found within organizations is the functional structure. Consists of units or departmental groups identified by specialty, such as marketing, sales, manufacturing, or human resources, that are controlled from the top level of management. In the functional structure, as shown in this slide, the CEO, which is sitting on the top level of management, and under his chair are the vice presidents of each department. Under the department, there are some certain divisions, for instance, in marketing, the market research, advertising, and promotion. In sales, are concerned with some areas, such as the East region, South region, and West region. And under the manufacturing division or department, it is the purchasing division, operations, and logistics. And under human resources, the specified tasks for this department are the recruiting division, training, and compensation. The strengths and weaknesses of functional structure are: for the strengths, small to medium-sized firms with limited product diversification, specialization of functional knowledge, less duplication of functional resources, and facilitates coordination within functional areas. While the weaknesses part of functional structure are weakness coordination across functional groups, restricted view of overall organizational goals, limits customer attention, slower response to market changes, and burden chief executives with decisions. Companies with multiple product lines or specific retail divisions can benefit from a product style organizational structure. This allows the company to create a tall structure divided by product type or style. Each division has its own internal departments and operates like a mini business. Using a product organization structure is most common in companies such as retail stores. These organizations will separate out their products by group, such as apparel, appliances, food, or electronics. This helps owners and managers run their operation more efficiently. Let us discuss the strengths and weaknesses of product structure. For the strength, more focus on products and customers. Easier to evaluate performance of the product. Product responsiveness to market changes. Less burden on the top executive in making operating decisions. While the weaknesses part of product structure are duplication and lack of economies of scale. Problems for customers purchasing across multiple product groups. Conflicts between product groups and corporate objectives. And lastly, conflict between product groups. Large companies that serve a varied customer base or operate in number of geographic regions may choose to operate with a divisional structure. This is more decentralized type of operation where each division functions much like its own separate company. This type of operation format offers certain benefits as well as potential pitfalls. The strengths and weaknesses of a division structures are the following. For the strength, it reduces functional duplication, customer focus can increase, cross-product coordination is ease, cross-regional coordination is often ease. While the weaknesses side are most appropriate only for diversified large companies with many products and product families, may inhibit cross-division coordination, and coordination difficulties between division and corporate objectives. A sample of customer structure can be viewed in this slide, wherein specific functions and field operations and services were designated in single point of contact. As can be viewed for Army and Navy customers, it is under the leadership of the Vice President Military Division, and so with the small and mid-sized retail. Let us now study customer structure, strengths, and weaknesses. Strengths of customer structure are in-depth understanding of specific customers, responsiveness to changes in customer preferences and needs, responsiveness to moves by competitors to better serve customers. And the weaknesses side, duplication of functional resources in each customer unit, coordination between customer units and corporate objectives, failure to leverage technology or other strengths in one unit across other units. Geographic structure is a term that refers to organizing an international company based on the area in which it operates. Each area is responsible for operations in that area, while the corporate office directs global strategy. As you can see on this slide, We have different places all over the globe wherein there is only one CEO or Chief Executive Officer involved. The strengths and weaknesses are also shown here. The strength of geographical regional structure are facilitates local responsiveness, develops in-depth knowledge of specific regions, countries, creates accountability by region, facilitates cross-functional coordination within region. While the weaknesses side are often creates cross-regional coordination difficulties, can inhibit ability to capture global scale economies, duplicates resources and functions across regions. Matrix structure is defined as a type of management system in which workers report to more than one person, effectively having two or more supervisors at the same time. This can be illustrated by the example of a project environment, where professionals with different type of expertise are brought together to work on a projects. They report to a number of managers of different projects as well as to a functional supervisor. The idea is to share knowledge and personnel to maximize effectiveness. Strengths and weaknesses for matrix structure are defined in this slide. Strengths are information flow, decision quality, suited to changing complicated business environment, flexible use of human resources. While on the weakness side, it has complexity of performance evaluations, inhibit ability to respond to changing conditions, diffuse accountability, conflicts between differing perspectives and objectives. Organizational structures are a description of how companies manage or govern their internal operations. Classic structures such as product or functional may not provide companies with the best organizational method for this business. A hybrid organizational structure combines one or more of the classic methods. The organizational structure of a company is the formal and informal framework of organizational policies, such as hierarchical levels, lines of communication and reporting, and the rights and responsibilities of employees. A network organizational structure is more complicated and complex than any other structure because consists of multiple organizations that work together to produce goods or provide services. An organizational structure should reflect the appropriate culture the company is trying to instill in their workplace. This is crucial in a network structure because organizations are accountable for the business ethics of all partners in their supply chain. Understanding organizational uncertainty is imperative to the success of an organization, but the effects of uncertainty have been relatively under-theorized within public relations. The most common causes of uncertainty to be organizational changes, unclear policies, job insecurities, and the external environment. As you can see in this slide, there are low uncertainty, moderate uncertainty, under simple, and also under complex, we have moderate uncertainty and high uncertainty. What is international strategy? An international strategy is a strategy through which the firm sells its goods or services outside its domestic market. One of the primary reasons for implementing an international strategy is that international markets yield potential new opportunities. Firms can derive four basic benefits from using international strategies: increased market size, greater returns on major capital investments or on investment in new products and processes, greater economies of scale, scope or learning, and a competitive advantage through location. In this presentation were high foreign sales with low international product diversity. A geographic structure is suitable strategy. If low foreign sales with high international product diversity, a worldwide product division is necessary. Thank you for listening. I would like to appreciate Professor Maybelline for her guidance.